and acknowledge that you can hear and see the screen. Ken Bennett, can you hear us and see the screen? David Soslowski, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you.
Kristie Melendez. Thank you all for tuning in and signing on. I know there are many questions out there in the community during this time, so I thank you all for joining us to be part of this conversation. During this virtual meeting, we ask that you please be patient and courteous. Technology isn't infallible, and we're sure there may be some kinks we need to work through. If you are joining us via the internet and every household member is using bandwidth for their devices, you may experience some quality issues. Additionally, if you are joining us on Zoom but do not intend to ask any questions tonight, you can watch the meeting on WTV Cable Channel 8 or on the town's YouTube channel. Please know that everyone will be muted until we're ready for the public engagement portion of the meeting. When we get to questions and comments, please listen for your name or phone number, and the moderator will call out who is allowed to speak at that time. That's when we will unmute participants one at a time. You may also notice the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. You can ask a question using this feature at any time during the meeting. Our moderator, Jess, will address questions in the Q&A section as appropriate. Because we are using this digital format, submitting a question prior to the actual question and answer time will better ensure we receive and can address them. If you are having issues connecting via Zoom or have other questions about how to participate tonight, you can visit windsorgov.com/virtual meetings for more detailed instructions. At this time, I'm going to pause for just a moment and let those who are logging on to the Zoom platform to get situated. We want to give everyone a chance to make sure the volume on their computer or device is turned on. And while we are waiting for that, waiting for everybody to kind of get checked in, I just want to make kind of a statement to all of you who are out there. At the end of the day, all we can account for and control are our own actions. These actions will live out long after this virus has gone. So please take care to safeguard yourselves and your loved ones and respect those around you who have different matters of opinion or ways of addressing this. We are not a nanny state and have always been a community of welcoming and honoring different points of view. And while there is a serious issue at hand, and those that should consider this as such, please note that there are others who do think and act and respond differently. I also caution you to be mindful of this because there are many underlying circumstances as to others' behaviors that we are not privy to. And so many of the calls that we have been receiving to date that we've had to go out to check upon, I have been told have not been warranted, that we do have folks in the community who are being mindful and watchful. So at the end of the day, again, let's just really make sure that we're taking care of ourselves and being respectful of all. Okay, it looks like we're all ready to go and everybody is ready. So we're going to start our virtual meeting for this evening. Over the last few weeks, we have begun to settle into a new version of normal, and it's not a version any of us could have anticipated. We are separated from family and from friends. Some of us cannot work, and several of us know people who have fallen ill with symptoms, or we know those who have been confirmed positive with coronavirus. One thing remains true, and it is this, that we are in this all together. Again, thank you to everyone for taking the time to join us this evening. Throughout the course of this meeting, I want to share with you some updates about what has been happening in our community in response to COVID-19. We are faced with many challenges as a result of this crisis, challenges which may have seemed far-fetched just a few weeks ago. There have been growing concerns about the status of many local businesses and the impact of extended closures on their ability to survive. Questions about the sustainability of services that the town provides, and above all else, concerns about how to keep ourselves and our families safe. Regarding the current stay-at-home order, many are wondering what may happen on April 26th, when the current order expires. We know the State Health Department is constantly monitoring case data to help state and local leadership decide when and how restrictions may be relaxed. For some, there continues to be a growing concern about coronavirus or COVID-19, and others, well, seemingly few, begin to doubt whether or not the stay-at-home order was even necessary. I would like to assure you that town leadership takes both of these viewpoints seriously, and at this time, we want to continue to keep our community well informed while honoring state and federal and county health recommendations. We are currently eclipsing 6 weeks of this new and hopefully temporary normal. I would like to take a moment to thank all the many healthcare workers, the many doctors, nurses, emergency personnel, from police and fire services, that all of you who are responding to the growing demands of this situation. As of 7:30 a.m. today, we had 49 confirmed positive cases in the 80550 zip code, and the Larimer County portion of our community is reporting 2 positive cases. The governor has released a 3-phase plan to guide us, and we're currently still in phase 1. We know that we're looking closely at data and that our state and county health departments all worked hard last week to release better information drill downs so we could make more informed decisions about how and when to ease up on our restrictions. We know that 2 to 3 weeks ago, healthcare capacity was expanded as even our local Larimer County Ranch facility transitioned from a site that was used for first responder testing to a makeshift medical response center. None of these major response improvements happened overnight. Each takes time to plan, implement, test, and operate. And the entire time throughout these last 5 weeks, we have been determining the cost and health ramifications and benefits of our current stay-at-home structure. Because we are using each day's statistics, and those can change a lot in a week, I cannot quite say that the state is 100% ready to ease up on restrictions. And I think a lot of you might have heard from the governor. He was just relaying his latest information this afternoon. And I believe that that coincides with what he was actually saying as well. We expect to see that these restrictions may ease up for some areas and some not for others. We will continue to follow the guidance of our county and state health experts. We also expect more people to take advantage of the nice weather forecasted over the next few weeks. I hope these residents continue to limit the spread of this virus by engaging socially appropriately at a distance until the current stay-at-home order is lifted. One thing is certain: we cannot expect life to return to normal once the state and county start lifting restrictions. We expect residents to continue good hand washing, taking appropriate distancing measures, and staying at home if you are ill. I do know that we do have a special guest from Weld County with us this afternoon. We have Eric Ako from the Weld County Health Department. So at this time, I might see if Eric wanted to bring up any updates in terms of the latest and greatest from the Weld County Health Department. Eric?
Sure, thanks for having me. Can you all hear me just fine?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, those of you who may or may not know, the health department has been all hands on deck for the last 6 weeks, dealing with COVID We've been aggressively monitoring the situation. We've been doing aggressive contact tracing, and that's partly why we have kind of high numbers, because we have been very diligent in following up with every case. We still have quite a few to catch up because there's so many, but we've been very busy with that whole process. We have a website that's pretty comprehensive that I encourage the public to go to. It's at weldhealth.org, weldhealth.org, all one word. On that site, there are a number of resources that are available for the public, as well as healthcare professionals and businesses. There are resources there to show you how to use proper PPE or personal protective equipment, how to properly hand wash, how to properly practice physical distancing, as well as some basic information about what does isolation and quarantine mean, because we continue to need to put that all into practice still for a while. And then I think your mayor alluded to this at the very beginning, Mayor Melendez, that we have a tracking map as well as a number of graphs that show by zip code the cases of positive COVID within Weld County. And I think people will find that helpful just to see where the cases are. And I just want to say this too, that we have the virus is everywhere. There isn't one place that has been spared. It's all up and down the Front Range, it's all across Colorado, and as you probably hear in the news, it's all across the country. So it really is important to continue to practice physical distancing, hand washing, staying home if you're sick, and just within the last few days, from the governor, wearing a mask in public when you're out and about. So all of those measures are going to provide a tremendous impact on the virus, and we are seeing some benefits of that already, because some of the epidemiological curves that we talk about, the epi curve of the virus, has shown that we have started to flatten it on a state level, and all of the things that we are doing are making an impact. And if we just take one of those away, like say the physical distancing, we could see the return or increased rates of the virus infection. So it's really kind of 5 things that are key to mitigating this disease, this virus. Number 1 is the physical distancing, keeping 6 feet apart and no large gatherings of people. The second is wearing a mask in public. The third is the isolation and quarantine. That continues to be a key component. And then the final one is testing. And I know that's kind of been a challenge here in Colorado as well as in Weld County, but we are continuing to get testing supplies in and make those available to high-risk areas and individuals. We still don't have a lot. We can't just test anybody, but we have been doing some high-risk screening with this past week, and then in the ensuing weeks we'll continue to do that. But nonetheless, we're starting to see some good signs, on a limited basis. As you've probably heard, the governor considering lifting some of the stay-at-home orders. But again, it's going to be vital that people continue to wear a mask, practice physical distancing, no large gatherings of people, and then certainly continue to hand wash and stay home if you're sick. So with that, I don't know, Mayor, did you have anything else you want me to talk about?
I think if that's an update for now, Eric, I would just ask if you can stay on the call so we can we're going to kind of go through the rest of our departments for updates. And then at the end is going to be an opportunity and time for our community and folks to ask questions. So if you wouldn't mind hanging on, those who might have specific questions then for you at Weld County and about the health department, we can take those at that time. So now I want to move forward and giving more detailed updates from all of our departments and how we are addressing these challenges. But before I do, I want to say this. There is no doubt that this is a challenging time that we are in. But I also know this community very well, because as a fourth-generation Windsorite, I know that we have the resilience and the courage to navigate these challenging times and come out on the other side stronger. We will all have to work together. We will have to be patient with one another. But by coming together, despite the distance, we can and will get through all of this. So with that, we're going to start with some department updates. The first department we're going to hear from is going to be from the Finance Department, who's going to talk about the update there and the town budget. So starting with Finance in our 2020 budget, the priority for staff and the town board has been to be proactive about managing expenditures and preparing for potential reductions in revenue, particularly from the loss in sales tax. While there is no way to know for certain the exact figures, staff is anticipating about $19 million less in revenue, and as such, the 2020 budget is being cut by $14.2 million, with the remaining $5 million being made up with surpluses in the fund balance. Because of our prudent handling of the town's finances, not just this year, but throughout the many multitude of years, especially under the realm of our directorship of Mr. Moyer, we remain in a very solid position to withstand the decline in revenue. All town departments have been instructed to forego all non-essential spending, and this includes a hiring freeze that is put into effect for any vacant, full-time, non-essential positions. Public safety personnel, however, are not affected by this freeze. While some services have been cut as a result of these impacts, including the town's recycling center, which has been the subject of a lot of conversation lately, especially on social media, the priority in the budget is to preserve essential services and to be as prepared as possible to provide other services as they are permitted to reopen. Mr. Moyer, I know you're on the line with us. Did you have anything else you want to share or add?
You will need to unmute yourself, Mr. Moyer.
Sorry.
You're going in and out. Could you try unmuting again?
Well,
Sorry.
how's that?
That's good.
Okay. I'm gonna echo what the mayor said. We have prepared for this, a couple of ways, as she said. We have strong fund balances. We've had a number of good years. The town board has always, as long as I've been there, the town board has been real good about being prudent with their money. We've avoided debt. We have money that we can fall back on here. If this goes on,
Dean,
You're starting to go out, Dean.
you're going in and
all
out,
right,
sir.
Okay.
Sure, what else?
Okay. So if anybody's got questions for that, we can take those at the end. I do want to just comment just a little bit more. about, because I've seen so much emotion about the recycling center, and I think in part that's because we have many folks who, truly want to do their best for, the environment and for our community. So the best thing is really to think about reuse, repurpose, and lastly, to recycle. Because really, indirectly, we are being affected by an industry that right now we also really can't control. The recycling industry right now is in a hole. It costs more for those folks to want to actually bring this in than to take it to market. So we've seen a reduction and also like an actual non-recyclability for glass, mini plastics. And so I know everybody feels very strongly about this. We do intend to come back and have our town-wide opportunities to be able to participate that way. So right now, there's ways that you can continue to utilize those services through commercial uses that are within your means, or there are many other facilities within our distance, within the town's ability to be able to, outside of the town's ability to be able to continue with that service. But there are many other places and opportunities for our folks to be able to continue to, again, recycle within their own means. And I'm sure we might get some additional questions with this even at the end. With that, though, we'll move now to the police. So police staff have been issued cloth masks to wear when proper physical distancing is not an option, and it is safe to do so using the mask. Officers are maintaining high visibility patrol, and I do think, and I do believe that 500 masks were purchased from one of our own, Inga Fine Tailoring in Windsor. So we used a local resource to be able to provide those to our officers. With this crisis, there has been an increase in cybersecurity threats, particularly scams, including related to economic stimulus checks. So please remember that the IRS will never contact you asking for bank account information. If you believe you have spotted some kind of scam, please report it to the police department. And with that, do we have anybody? No? Okay. So then we're going to talk about municipal court. As of now, all pending court cases have been moved to May. The municipal court judge has closed court until further notice. However, things are still very fluid. Court staff will contact you if you receive a summons and notify you of any further scheduling changes. In community development, at this time, only town-planned construction projects that were already in motion before the pandemic began will be going through to completion, at least until further notice. Staff continues to monitor the situation and will make decisions on other town-initiated projects. Engineering and planning staff continue to review building permits, perform development reviews, land development applications, plot plans, and process right-of-way permits remotely. In addition, the building permit process is now entirely online in an effort to continue to allow developers to move forward on projects. In public works, last week we saw typical Colorado weather, and it suddenly gave us nearly a foot of wet, heavy spring snow. Big kudos to all of our public works and parks crew who worked diligently through the storm to keep roads clear, all while staying safe and maintaining physical distancing. In Parks, Rec, and Culture, as of now, all events and in-person programs for the month of May have been canceled. The department is working on various plans for a slow reopening of facilities and events once it is safe to do so. Staff is also using this time to continue various cleaning and maintenance projects throughout town facilities. Whether or not summer events are impacted will remain to be seen. The Parks, Rec, and Culture staff continue to distribute lunches to seniors, and a menu and information about the senior lunch program is available in the coronavirus section of the town website. Work is also continuing on the Kiger Open Space Trail, which is currently on schedule to open in May. In our Economic Development Department, the Economic Development Department is continuing its outreach efforts, including virtual meetings for industries that have been affected by shutdowns, as well as researching and identifying ways to help Windsor businesses. The team is also conducting a survey of businesses in Windsor to understand how businesses have been responding to the extended closures, and as of this week, we'll start a recovery group that will start expanding so that we are ready for the recovery process when that begins as well. I, at this time, also want to take the opportunity, and I want to show off here, for those that can see, some T-shirts about the support #Windsor Strong local business, support local business, #Windsor Strong campaign. We kicked off this campaign this week. You can go to kwshirts.com to order your support local business, #Windsor Strong. All the proceeds of buying your T-shirt will go directly into the Economic Development Recovery Fund to help with assistance for our businesses once we are able to get back and to be in business. So I'm personally going to be matching the first $1,000 that come through. So get on your laptops and get your orders going so that we at least get 50 shirts sold. So we can get some money going into that fund that will go into the Economic Development Office to help our local businesses. So they need our help now, but they certainly will need our help too in the recovery process. Moving on to water, utility, and customer service. At this time, the Windsor Water Utility is not assessing late fees on balances, and water shutoffs are not occurring as a matter of health and safety for our residents either. Our wastewater operators continue to ask residents to avoid sewage impacts by keeping wipes and paper towels out of the system. Now we're going to move into our public participation. So if you haven't already, please begin typing questions into the chat feature through our Zoom meeting. Anyone who is waiting on the phone when we begin taking questions, please listen for the moderator to call your name or phone number, at which time you will be unmuted and allowed to speak. To allow participants from as many residents as possible, we will limit your questions to 3 minutes. While we allow everyone to enter their questions, I also want to acknowledge that last week, the official results from our municipal election were certified, the results of which you can find on our website. I want to congratulate Mayor-elect Paul Rennemeyer, as well as the other town board members who will be taking office later this month, and that's Vic Talon and Scott Carpentier. Town staff are working through details of the swearing-in ceremony that will take place next Monday, April 27th. And so now we're going to go to our questions.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Jess Humphreys, Administrative Services Director and Moderator tonight. We do have a few questions that were written in. We will take those first. And then after that, I will look to the Q&A or question and answer feature to see if we have any more for those that are online. First question, when are we going to follow the latest science that clearly shows the original science was completely wrong and open our city? And if I may, I'm going to direct this question to our mayor, Kristie Melendez.
Okay. So I know that many folks are wondering, when are we going to get back to business as usual or as normal? As I commented, that's going to be a long, slow process that will be done in phased-in sequences. And we take both sides of the science very seriously. However, we are and do have to follow direction from the state health department and as well as the county health department. And I believe the message from the governor today was that the counties will take the lead on this. And so, as most of you know, in Windsor, we are a two-county municipality. We have Larimer County on one side and Weld on the other. So the data is clear. People who live in areas where, I'm sorry. That's the next question. So, but anyway, so I guess we have to take our protocols and we have to take our guidance from those health departments.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Second question. The data is clear. People who live in areas where the air quality is compromised have higher rates of death due to COVID-19. Given that Weld County has the worst air quality in Colorado, what specifically is the city doing about testing our air quality and implementing actions to reduce air pollution? At this time, I will direct this question to our Director of Planning, Scott Ballstead. Scott, if you could unmute yourself and go ahead.
Thank you, Jess. The town board held several work sessions regarding potential air quality testing options over the past 6 or 8 months, including discussions with experts from CU and CSU, and ultimately at the end of that discussion determined that it was prudent to wait on the outcome of the current rulemaking process being undertaken by the state. New air quality regulations are expected to be considered by the Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, and the Air Quality Control Commission this summer. And once those new rules are known, the town board will better be able to determine if there are areas that they wish to further address locally.
Thank you, Scott. Next question. If we're all at home right now, why can't the town go ahead and do all the road construction and fix all the roads? I'm going to direct this question to John Thornhill, our Community Development Director. John?
Thank you, Jess. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Okay. John Thornhill, Community Development Director. The easy answer to that question is the town does not budget every year to fix all roads. The town uses a pavement management program to evaluate road conditions each year and determine which roads need repair. The system allows the town to continuously maintain our road infrastructure without having to pave all roads at once, and also be able to effectively budget for those repairs. For 2020, the town has budgeted around $2.7 million for road repair. Winter and spring months are typically used to identify those roads in need of repair, complete design work, and bid the projects out, select a contractor, and ultimately proceed with the projects. By the time that process is complete, road work typically will not start until schools are out, which results in reduced traffic volumes and better weather conditions, lessening the impact to our residents, and ultimately completing the repairs in a shorter time frame. Due to the onset of the pandemic, we simply would not have the time to get all the road projects started and completed before winter would set in, and with the reduction in the anticipated revenue that the mayor previously alluded to, the town would not have the funds to complete any additional road repairs outside of our normal maintenance program.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Jess.
Thank you, John. Next question. When will you allow businesses to reopen? I'm going to direct this question to Mayor Kristie Melendez, please.
Well, if I could have my way and my wish, it would be tomorrow, because I'm very sympathetic to, and I know the plight that many of our local business folks are facing right now. But it certainly it's not feasible, nor is it sensible. But hopefully, as of the 26th, there will be some phases and some level of restrictions that will be lifted so that many of our businesses can go back, at least in some shape or fashion. Again, there is still going to be some restrictions that have to be followed. But we will open as we are allowed, and again, making sure that we're following what we have to follow by the health departments.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Next question. My small business was unable to take advantage of the personal payroll program, and other communities have announced small business grants and forms of local business assistance. What is Windsor doing? I'm going to direct this question to Stacy Miller, our Director of Economic Development. Stacy?
Thank you, Jess. It's unclear by that question of whether they were unavailable to take advantage of that program due to the funds simply running out or whether they weren't eligible. So the good news is, from the funding standpoint, is Congress right now is looking at passing another $450 billion fund. $300 billion of that is for the PPP. So they are looking at actually refunding that program from that standpoint and giving them the ability to apply for it as well. If anybody on the call or anybody knows anybody that is having difficulty with their financial institution or doesn't know what to do, please have them call our office at 970-674-2414. That's my direct line, and we'd be glad to connect them so that they are in the queue for when this new round of funding comes out. If that's not the issue and they were simply looking for other forms of funding, we are in partnership with the Upstate Colorado efforts for the Larimer Weld Revolving Loan Fund, which is being converted into a different kind of loan fund, as well as Larimer County has one through the Community Foundation and the Community Enterprise Fund, rather, and they're looking at putting into group efforts for funding that way. Internally, the elected officials and leadership group are studying the best ways to assist with funding, a funding source for any and all of our businesses, actually, that we have in town. But just knowing that our elected officials and leadership team are really in support of our businesses, and we are here to help. So if there's anybody that has any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Our communications department has done a great job of getting benefits and information out on the website. Please feel free to reach out to my office, and hopefully I answered that question for what they were looking for.
Thanks so much, Stacy. Next question. Are you planning on shutting down the town every flu season? I'm going to direct this question again to Mayor Kristie Melendez.
Well, I think certainly that would not be our first response that we would want and hope that we would have to make. I think this was, the current response that we've seen now was unprecedented, and it was due to, I think it caught everybody off guard with the nature of what we had to face and what we came to face with. I've seen some in the recent days, and like what the Weld County Health Department and Larimer County Health Department, I think with the information that we're gathering going through this time period now, with the data and information that we have moving forward, I would hope that in the times to come, we will be able to avoid this situation, utilizing, best practices and information ahead of time to avoid it coming to this kind of heightened situation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Next question. Is there any hope of reopening the recycling center? And I'm going to send this question to two people. Eric Lucas, our Public Services Director, and Shane Hale, our Town Manager. Eric, would you like to start?
Sure. Thanks, Jess. While the town understands that this decision was a difficult one, I don't foresee the town reopening the recycling center for a variety of reasons. The foremost of that really is that the commodity market, as the mayor said earlier, is basically non-existent. And the ability that four private companies have to provide curbside service throughout the town allows us to still encourage residents in the town itself to recycle, but while at the same time we're able to basically stay out of the recycling business and allow the private sector to handle that.
Thank you, Eric. Shane Hale, would you like to add anything?
But I would just reiterate a little bit of what Eric said. I think the main point here is that the commodity market is so bad that the town's returns are so bad. It's kind of counterintuitive, that the higher the volumes we have, that the more money the town loses. So it's not about opening up the doors, promoting it better. Quite frankly, the fewer people that recycle, the less money we lose. So I think that Eric is spot on. As long as the commodity market is so bad, it's just a huge financial disincentive for the town to do that, especially when there are so many private options available in town. So yeah, I would think. Oh, and then we have about 4% of our residents that are actually using the service. So it's a very expensive program for the town to facilitate for really a low amount of the population. So that's all I would add.
Thank you, Shane. Next question. Why isn't the town hosting a spring cleanup? I'm going to send this to Mr. Eric Lucas, Public Services Director. Eric? You may have to unmute yourself.
I did, thank you.
Okay, there you go.
Um,
Sorry.
I got you. So we were actually planning on having a cleanup this weekend. We kind of held out hope that we would still be able to have that. Then when it became very clear and apparent that we were basically going to lose the month of April during some budget discussions in terms of what should we remove, and then knowing that probably not going to be able to hold something like a cleanup day in early May, we decided that we would not hold one this spring. Instead, just hold one this fall. Probably late September, early October is kind of the time we're targeting right now. And we hope by then that we'll go back to a much better normal than where we're at today.
Thank you, Eric. Next question. Loveland, Aurora, Boulder, Fort Lupton, and more have announced full-time and seasonal employees will be laid off or furloughed in the coming weeks because of the economic impact of the pandemic. Does the town plan to do the same? This question I'm going to defer to our town manager, Shane Hale.
Hello, Kristie and Jeff. So we are doing everything we can to avoid any furloughs or layoffs. Although if this pandemic continues, some may become inevitable. As the mayor stated earlier, the town took immediate action to implement a hiring freeze on all non-essential positions. Additionally, we have communicated to some of our part-time year-round staff that they will be paid until at least April 30th. And then concurrently, the leadership team is working to determine how many of these folks we can keep on staff throughout the summer in roles that are normally held by seasonal employees. So, to put it quite frankly, our current goal is to stop any new hires and to backfill those needs with our existing staff if possible. So as we start to see our actual revenues, especially sales tax collections, we may need to take additional steps. But, I know the town is taking great pride in the fact that they didn't have to lay anybody off or do any furloughs in the last recession back in 08 and 09. And, I think it's a high bar, but I think it's important that, our community knows and our staff knows that we do value them, and that it is going to be the last thing we do. It's not going to be one of the first actions.
Thank you, Shane. Next question. I have a lot of branches that fell after last week's spring storm. How can I dispose of them? Eric Lucas, Public Services Director, can you answer that for us, please?
Sure. My recommendation there is if you have curbside pickup that takes branches, I would cut them into small acceptable bundles per however your provider allows you to put them on curbside. If you don't have that, then I would begin to seek out other local companies such as Hagerman who accepts brush. I think that's the best kind of course of action that folks can take at this time.
Thank you, Eric. We have 2 more questions that came in writing. I'm a medical professional and feel that it is necessary to separate myself from my family. I would like to park my camper outside of my home and use it as a way to protect my family. Would the town consider letting some of us park our campers in front of our homes? This question is for our police chief, Rick Klemick. Rick?
Hello, this is Chief Klemick. We'll take all those cases on a case-by-case incident. So all we ask is the citizens to contact the department so we can work out a solution that works for everybody. It's not unreasonable to ask that question, and if there's any citizens that have concerns, just please contact the department. We'll come up with a solution.
Thank you, Chief. This is the last written-in question before we go to the Q&A function through the Zoom meeting. I'm concerned that King Soopers is allowing masks to be optional for their employees. They come into contact with a lot of people and could be a big factor in community spread. Is this something the town can address? Shane Hale, Town Manager, can you answer that for us, please?
Sure thing. So I think everybody on this call knows that on Friday, Governor Polis issued an executive order requiring workers at critical businesses like grocery stores to wear face coverings when in contact with customers or goods. So after we heard this complaint, we did reach out to the manager at King Soopers, who assured us that employees at the Windsor store are wearing face masks as required by the state. So that's the whole answer. I think they are compliant.
Thank you very much, Shane.
Sure.
That ends all the written in questions. I do see one comment actually and not a question in our Q&A area. This is from Sin French. Thank you for the hashtag Windsor Strong efforts through t-shirts. Please note that the Windsor Chamber of Commerce Board is supporting you all in this effort and is promoting in its newsletters to the members and the community. Thank you, Sin French.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah, 100% of the proceeds will go into the recovery fund, so.
At this time, I am going to go through all attendees that have either called in or registered in. I'm going to unmute you, state your name, and you have 3 minutes if you have any comments or questions. Sin French, you're unmuted.
Sorry, that was me being digitally incorrect.
That's okay.
Just wanted to wish you all well and just know that the chamber is here for you guys, and anything that you need, please let us know. We're here to support you.
Thank you.
Karen Speed, you can unmute yourself, please. I was trying. If you have a comment.
No, I do not have a comment.
Thank you for joining us, Karen. Russ Weber, if you could unmute yourself if you have a comment or question.
No questions for me.
Thank you so much for joining us. And that, I'm sorry, there is one more phone number. If 970-686-5878 has a question or comment, you have the floor.
Yes, I have 2 comments or questions.
Okay.
The first one is, does the town of Windsor use a recycling program? And the second one is, why can't the recycling and trash companies bid on a block of residences to minimize wear and tear on the roadways in Windsor?
If I could, Eric Lucas, would you have any comment to that? Or maybe...
So the first part of that, I want to clarify to make sure that you were saying or questioning, does the town recycle? And that answer is yes. From the lowest level recycling in terms of every office has 2 trash cans. One is for trash and one is for recycling. And it is not commingled. It is placed in the appropriate bins by our staff. To larger things such as dumpsters that we have on some sites. So for example, at the public services building that I'm at right now, there are 2 dumpsters. One is for trash and one is for recycling. So that is ongoing. So I think that was the intent of your question. The second part was asking if recycling companies could bid on specific streets. Someone else can definitely jump in here. I think for me that response is, I believe the way it's set up right now, every individual homeowner has the ability to choose their provider. And I don't know, speaking for the town board, whether we would promote all the residents trying to select one individual provider, because excuse me, that gets kind of into the private choice of what business you'd like to select as a resident or a household. So that's kind of where that sits today.
Thank you, Eric.
Okay,
Shane, Hale, I see that you're unmuted. Was there anything more you would like to add?
Yeah, I think Eric answered it well. You know, I know that there is a statutory process. If the town did want to go through and bid it out, as this gentleman said, select it, I know that there's a statutory process to go through. And during this question, I texted the attorney because I don't, off the top of my head, I don't remember what that is, but I think it's fairly involved to do that. And then the second part, and equally as important, is what Eric said, which is, you know, the town board philosophically would have to wrap their head around, you know, kind of picking winners and losers and selecting down and kind of removing people's choice as far as what providers they want. So the short answer is yes. I think the town could do it, you know, following a legal process, but you know, again, it would be up to you know, the 7 board members to really determine if that's a process they actually wanted to pursue.
I do know that we have had a local provider who has reached out to us, and I believe you're going to put that on an upcoming work session, Shane, for town board members to look at, not so that this company could take over, but again, I think they offered some additional options, and they might have an additional, some other option or solution towards recycling that perhaps they can bring to the community too. So I know that discussion is going to be coming in the upcoming months as well.
Right, Mayor, and I would just add, I have had a little correspondence from the town attorney during your answer. He advises that the town explored this back in 2005. And at that time, for whatever reason, the town board opted not to implement it. So, you know, I guess the town did look at that about 15 years ago, and for whatever reasons, determined they didn't want to pursue this.
Mr. McCarger, I see you do have your hand up as well during Mr. Hale's comment. Do you have anything more to add?
That's right. Jess, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
This is Ian McCarter, the town attorney. It's been a while since I've reviewed the statutory process, but I can tell you that 15 years ago, we spent a lot of time studying what to do and whether we should do it. And ultimately, the town board fell back on the marketplace and allowing people to make those choices. As far as mandating recycling, that was discussed but didn't gain much traction.
Thank you, Mr. McCarger. Laura T., I see that you are online as an attendee. If you could unmute yourself if you have a comment or question.
I have no questions or comments other than thank you so much to the town board and the town of Windsor for all that they're doing during this very challenging time for us. We appreciate all that you're doing, and thank you so much.
Thank you for being on with us.
Yeah, thank you.
At this time, if anybody else has a question, please, we'll take a moment pause, and you can type that in.
Yeah. Or as with our guest, believe he's still on from Weld County. I don't know if any of these other comments or thoughts or questions have sparked anything additional that you'd like to add at this time.
Well, we're all in this together, so we're all pitching in, which is kind of what we all need to do.
Yep. Thank you.
With that said, Madam Mayor, I am seeing no other questions at this time.
Okay. So, well, thank you all for taking the time to be part of this discussion and for being here this evening to hear and to listen and to learn. We will continue to take questions and comments even after tonight. So, and we'll get back to you one-on-one or as needed. So, continue to share as you need or as those come to mind to you. Again, I'm going to point out the t-shirt, support #Windsor Strong. Let's get back and support our business community or support them in any other way. I know many of them right now have pickup, delivery, options, gift cards available as well. And as we get through this and hopefully our final complete week, we will start emerging into some kind of recovery mode starting next week. So wishing you all well, and be safe out there, and continue to respect one another as we continue to move through all of this together. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you for Jess for getting this all set up so that we could be out there for all of you. And thank you to all the department heads for taking time to be on the call as well as all the other fellow town board members. So looking forward to seeing you all on Monday night at our town board meeting at I guess it's going to be at 5 p.m. So see you all then. Thank you. Done? Okay, not too many questions.